What is up, you guys? So in this one, we're going to review different ways of using a callable object. So get rid of this code right here as well. Let's create a class, call it A, give it a public function that takes in an int and a char as arguments, another function that takes in a double and returns 0, and an operator that is also public as such. Now don't forget the semicolon here, and over here let's define a class lowercase a, the object of the class, open a thread and pass it a class A with an int of value 6, and open an async function that launches as such. So what we got over here is a class A that has a member function, and so I have a class A over here that has a member function f, which takes an integer and a char as parameters, and a function g that returns a long and takes in a double x, and an operator which indicates that A is also a functor, not only a class. Okay? Now down here in the main function, we've created an object of A right here. Now, as mentioned previously, there's two ways to launch a child thread. The first one is using a thread object, and another one is using the async function. And both the thread constructor and the async function have similar function signatures. They take a callable object followed by a variable number of arguments. Now there's another function that also has a similar signature, which is the bind function. So bind takes in a callable object followed by some arguments, and also another one which is call once, takes the once flag and a callable object and the arguments. So as you can see, this kind of usage of using a callable object followed by a variable number of arguments is quite popular in standard library. So let's review how this phenomenon could be used in different ways. Let's use the thread as an example. Let me get rid of all this. So here we're creating a copy of A, then invoke it as a functor in a different thread. Right? And if I don't want to make a copy, since I already have an instance of class A, which is lowercase a, I want to use the same A to save memory to create a different thread. Then all I have to do is create a reference wrapper of A and pass it over to the child thread. This will simply launch A as a functor in a different thread, right? I can also create A on the fly. So that said, I can open A over here and pass it the argument as such. This will create a temporary A, which is moved into the thread object, and then create a thread. Okay, so this callable object doesn't have to be a functor. It can be a function, and it could be a lambda function as well. So for instance, open a thread T4 that takes a lambda function that takes an integer x and returns say x times x. This is a lambda function that takes in an integer parameter. We can pass, let's say, 6 over here. And to make things more concrete, define a function over here, foo, that takes in x. Then we can create a thread based off this function foo and takes 6 as a parameter. We can also create threads through member functions. To accomplish that, open a thread T6, amp A, F, A8, 6, and pass it, let's say, W. This is again making a copy of A and then invoke A's function, so A.f, and pass it, let's say, 6 and W in a different thread. Now, if I don't want to make a copy of A, I can also pass A's address. So the same as T6, this time T7, take the address of A. So this T7 is simply the same as T6, but we don't really want a copy of A. Say that I don't want to make a copy of A and I don't want to pass A as a reference either. Then I can use a move function. So same thing as here, copy it down here, call it T8, and all I have to do is move. Right? So move A from the current thread to the child thread. So here I don't want a copy of A and I don't want to pass A as reference. Hence you can use std's move. Here you need to be aware that A is no longer usable in the main thread, or more accurately in the parent thread. So really, these are the different ways of using a callable object. And as mentioned, you can use them along the bind function, like bind, async, and the call once function. This is not an exhaustive list. There exists many more, but you get it over here. So that's it for the day. We did a review of different ways of using callable objects. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it beneficial, please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions whatsoever, kindly leave a comment down in the comment section below, and I'll make sure I'll get to it as soon as possible. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in future lectures.